Hello everyone, I welcome you to my YouTube channel, Professor Civil Mandal. Here I basically speak about civil engineering and you will find my various lectures of various topics of civil engineering over here. So now in this video, this is actually the part 2 of the fluid statics. So please refer to part 1 of this video before proceeding in this particular theory lesson. The link for the part 1 video is given in the description, and in the part 2 I will be starting with the hydrostatic forces. So the force exerted by the fluid on the surface with which it is in contact is called the total hydrostatic force. So basically whenever a fluid is in a particular container, suppose, or something, wherever the fluid is in contact with, or it is in contact with any land mass, suppose, so wherever the fluid will, whatever with which the fluid will be in contact, the force that it will be exerting on it will be known as the total hydrostatic force. Why are we saying that it is the total hydrostatic force? Because it is the sum total of two forces, or you can say it is the resultant of two forces. First is the total hydrostatic force on a horizontal plane surface and total hydrostatic force on a vertical plane surface. So we will basically take the resultant of these two so as to get the total hydrostatic force. Also, the point of application of total hydrostatic force on the surface is called the center of the pressure. So the point where the total hydrostatic force will be assumed to be applied, and that place you can say it is the center of pressure. For plane surface, the total hydrostatic force can be easily calculated because the direction of forces at all points is same and can be added algebraically. So for plane surfaces, the total hydrostatic force can be easily calculated because direction of force at all points is same and can be added algebraically. And in plane surface, you can see that just let us take up this figure. We have a plane surface and force is hydrostatic force is being applied to it, and basically if you just take up the hydrostatic force, it will be increasing as you move to the depth. So therefore we will get a triangular section, and you can see every strips are like trapezium, and you can get there, you can calculate the area occupied by that particular strip. So the calculation of getting the total hydrostatic force for a plane surface will be easy because it will be simple addition of this particular elements. For curved surface, the direction of all the forces are different as they are perpendicular to the surface. So for this case, all forces are resolved into two coordinate system and then they are added algebraically. So if we have something like a curved surface, suppose like this, so force will be exerted in horizontal direction and force will also be exerted in vertical direction. So it's better to have a resultant of these two as the total hydrostatic force, and this thing will be applied only for curved bodies. So let us just see what we can get from the total hydrostatic force on a horizontal plane surface and total hydrostatic force on a vertical plane surface. So let us first consider the total hydrostatic force on a horizontal plane surface. So for this, just let us consider that there is a plane surface. Let us consider that this is the plane surface and it is immersed in water or any fluid, suppose, and this fluid has a specific weight equal to gamma, and this plane surface is held at a height, suppose, h. This you can consider as the center line, the two axes for this body, suppose, and it is considered that this body this plane surface is at a depth h from the free surface of the water. So this is the free liquid surface. It can be water or any fluid. Just let us consider that this plane surface is h below the free liquid surface, and also let us consider that this has surface area equal to A. So we have surface area A and we have gamma, and it is h below. So therefore we can say that the pressure P is equal to gamma h. Gamma, as you know, it is rho g h, so it is gamma h, you can say it like that. And therefore you can say pressure is equal to force upon area, you know it, and therefore the force will be P times A. So we can write pressure as gamma h times A. So therefore F horizontal will be equal to gamma h A. So whenever we are given a horizontal surface immersed in a liquid body, so we can use the simple formula gamma HA, where A will be the area of this surface area of this plane surface, H will be the depth from the free surface, and gamma will be the specific weight of the liquid surface. Only these three parameters will be sufficient for us to get the horizontal force that will be acting on a plane surface which is horizontally immersed in a fluid. Now let us take up the second case, that is the total hydrostatic force on a vertical plane surface. So only in this case, just consider that the above conditions were true, like the fluid will be having specific gravity gamma, and also this will be the free liquid surface, suppose, and let us take up an irregular body this time, which is immersed vertically in the plane surface. So now, because we don't know the area or volume or anything for this particular irregular object, let us take up a strip in it of thickness dy. Let us consider that we have taken a strip whose thickness is dy, and this strip is basically having a depth y from the free liquid surface. This is the free liquid surface, and we have a depth y for this particular strip that we have considered in the irregularly shaped vertically immersed body. And now therefore we can say that the pressure intensity over here can be small p. Let us take that this is small p, and that will be equal to gamma y, because previously we had taken gamma h was the depth, and here y is the depth. So we will take that the pressure that is being exerted in this small strip will be P is equal to gamma y. Now next, dF will be the small amount of force that is acting on it, and suppose let us just take up that vertically the body is going to look like this. So for the liquid, the body is going to look like this, like it is totally a vertical something, and the liquid is going to exert force on it in this way. So we can have the force over here, and let us take that this is the CG and this is the CP, and this CG and CP are suppose XP distance away. XP distance away, and the bottommost part is at a depth of capital Y. Alright, and CG is at a depth H dash, and CP is at a depth YP. Okay, so now dF can be taken as the pressure, the small pressure, times this small area dA. Suppose dA is the area of this small element. So therefore now dA, how will you get dA? dA will be B times dy. So let us take up something called B, that will be this width of this irregular object. Let us take it as B, and it will be B times dy. So therefore you can say dF will be equal to P will be equal to gamma y times dA, that will be equal to B dy. Now let's integrate both the sides. So this will be 0 to capital F, suppose, is the total force, hydrostatic force that is acting, and that will be equal to gamma y B dy. And now we will also integrate this one, and thus if we just integrate this one, let us take that we will get an area AH dash. H dash is the distance of the center of gravity, and A is the capital area, and we will also have the gamma, and that will be equal to the force, and this is basically the total hydrostatic force on this irregularly shaped body. Now you can just consider as this is the vertical, this is the force that is acting on a vertical plane surface. So now I will give you a table that will be very useful and very essential for you to get the vertical forces for a particular body which is immersed. Now let's take up the case for the total hydrostatic force on inclined plane surface. Now we have a body, suppose this is inclined in this way, and for this object being inclinedly immersed in the water or in the liquid, so we can consider that its axis is also inclined, right? This axis, which should have been like this or like this, but perpendicular, but it's not like that. These axes is actually inclined with some angle, and that is theta. Suppose theta is the angle of inclination, and CG is the center of gravity and CP is the center of pressure. Here I have also given the force distribution of the body, because as this part is higher, at some higher level, so therefore the force that will be acting on it will be lesser, and gradually it will be increasing, with the bottommost part having being exerted with the highest amount of force. And let us take up that the resultant is acting at this place, which is suppose almost 2/3 of this one, and this is the F, that is the resultant force, and it is acting directly on center of pressure, because center of pressure is that part where the center of pressure is basically the point of application of total hydrostatic force, which we have already discussed. So therefore the total hydrostatic force will be acting on the center of pressure. Now from the x-axis, suppose this CG and CP are at depth YC and YP respectively, and from the y-axis the CP is at depth XP and CG is at depth XC. So now, as the body is again irregular, we take up a small area dA, which we are going to analyze, and this dA is at a depth of y from the x-axis. So we can write that the force will be the integration of P times dA, small p times dA. Suppose small p is the pressure that is being exerted at this small strip of area. So, and I am using double integration because I will be integrating with respect to both the axes of this area, both with respect to the length and breadth. So I am taking the double integration. So now F can also be written as, now pressure, as you know, it is rho GH. Pressure, as you know, it is rho GH. So I can write that F is equal to double integral of rho G H times dA. Now rho and G will be a constant term, so I can take them out of this integral, and we will have the integration of H times dA. Now where is H? H is this one, the actual depth of this strip of area, and HC is the actual depth of the center of the gravity. So I am just representing it over here because this can make my diagram clumsy if I just directly keep pulling the arrows over here. So I have pulled the arrows up to here only. Just make it sure that H is the depth of the center of gravity of this particular dA, and HC is the depth of the center of gravity of the whole body. So this is H, and this particular length is again Y. Alright, so if I resolve Y, so I can say that this part is cos theta and this part, which is equal to H, is actually sin theta. Or from this triangle you can also say that sin theta is basically equal to the perpendicular by hypotenuse, that is H by Y, or H equal to Y sin theta. So I can substitute this H equal to Y sin theta over here. So I will get it like this, that rho G y sin theta dA, and now let's just take sin theta out because theta will be constant, this inclination will be constant, so I need not to make a change on this inclination, so I can take sin theta outside. So rho g sin theta, and we have the double integral of y dA. So what can we do next? Next, let us just consider that we have something called yc also, that is the center of gravity, and the ordinate yc is basically can be defined by yc equal to 1 upon a and the double integral of y dA. So you can relate yc with y as by this equation. So just let's name the equations, like this one will be equation 1, this one will be my equation 2, and this one will be my equation 3. It is basically, you can say that ayc will be equal to this a dash y, and this a dash I am representing by y dA. Okay, and so basically it is equal to yc, and then therefore yc is again equal to 1 by a times double integral of y dA. Okay, so moving on to the next thing, that is we have this one as equation 3. So from equation 2 and 3 we get that so this double integral of y dA is basically equal to a times yc. So I can substitute this value over here, and thus I will get force is equal to rho g sin theta times a yc. And so yc sin theta, where's yc? Yeah, this one is yc sin theta will be basically hc. So therefore f will be equal to rho g a sin theta, and yc will be hc. So I'll write it over here. So let's make this equation 4, and we will now take up the moments of the resultant force about x-axis. So the moments of the resultant force about x-axis will be, suppose F, and we have yp, so it will be suppose fyp. So fyp or ypf will be equal to integral of y df. So integral of y df will come if we are considering this small area, and that will be thus equal to rho g sin theta integral of y square dA. I hope you are clear why it is why rho g sin theta y is coming, because I am trying to represent this small df as this thing. So I am replacing small df as rho g sine theta integral of y dA, and therefore it will be coming up like this, and thus because of presence of another y we will have y square over here. So let us consider this to be equation 5. So let's solve this equation 5 and replacing f from equation 2. We can write yp is equal to double integral with respect to a. Now let's define it with respect to a, y square dA upon double integral a y dA. So just let's define that this is yp and this will be our equation 6. In the same manner, if we now just consider this was f times yp, if we consider the y-axis, now if we consider the x-axis, it will be f times xp. Alright, it will be f times xp. So xp f will be integral of x df if we consider the unit small area, and it will be further equal to rho g sine theta double integral of xy dA. Why? Because now df will be taken as rho g sine theta double integral of x dA. So therefore we will get xp equal to double integral defining it with a xy dA upon double integral a y dA. Okay, so finally the two double integrals in the numerator of equation 6 and equation 7, the two numerators that we will be getting, that is y square dA and the xy dA, are the moment of inertia about the x-axis and the product of inertia ixy about x and y-axis. So this is about x-axis and this is about x. This is the product of inertia ixy about x and y-axis. So by applying the theorem of parallel axis, we shall be knowing the theorem of parallel axis. Ixx will be equal to double integral of y square dA will be equal to I x dash plus ayc square, and I xy will be double integral of xy dA, and that will be equal to I x dash y dash plus a xc yc. So we denote them as equation 8 and equation 9. So you might be thinking that what is ix dash x dash and ix dash y dash. Let's just take the figure again. We have the CG over here, and x dash y dash are basically the axis of this center of gravity. So basically ix dash and ix dash y dash are the moment of inertia and the product of inertia respectively of the surface about the centroidal axis x dash minus y dash xc and yc, and are the coordinates of the center C of the area with respect to x and y axis. So with the help of equation with the help of equations 8 and 9, and also we have equation 3, that is this one. We can write this equation 6 and 7. So let me write the sentence for you, that by using equation 8, 9, 3, equation 6 and 7 will be, so what was our equation 6? Equation 6 was ypf equal to rho g sin theta integral of y square dA, and y square dA, integral of y square dA is basically ixx, and that is equal to ix dash x dash plus ay square. Therefore yp will be equal to I x dash upon ayc plus yc, and xp will similarly become I x dash y dash upon ayc plus xc, and this will be, suppose this is 10a and this will be 10b. So you can see that the first term on the right hand side, this is this I x dash upon ayc, this is always positive. Hence the center of pressure is always at a higher depth from the free surface, and that at which the center of area lies. So basically we will say that the center of pressure will be higher at the higher depth from the free surface than that at which the center of the area or the center of gravity lies. This is obvious because of the typical variation of hydrostatic pressure with the depth from the free surface. So you cannot just determine exactly where it is. This is the only way you can determine. And when the plane area is symmetric about the y dash and the I x dash y dash equal to 0. So in the notes I have also given the diagram of for this thing. You can just go through this. Let us take up another case, that total hydrostatic force on curved surface. So basically we have a curved surface over here immersed in a liquid, and let us just take up a point where the vertical force will be dFb and the horizontal force will be dFh, and the resultant will be dF. And suppose this curved surface is at theta angle with the horizontal axis, and it is at a depth h. So basically we can calculate the total horizontal force Fh as integration of dFh, right? We can just get it by simply the integration of dFh, and that we can say is equal to y integration of hd a sine theta, sorry, gamma hd sine theta. And we also have fb, that will be integration of dfb, and that will be equal to gamma integral of hd a cos theta, because the vertical component will be cos theta and we will have hd a cos theta. So therefore we can also use the previous methods for finding the horizontal and vertical force, and basically the total force or the resultant force will be square root of fh square plus fv square, simple vector law, and the direction of F will be given by theta equal to tan inverse Fy upon Fb upon Fh. So these things can be these things can be understood with the help of numericals. So let us just proceed by doing some numericals. So we have a problem. A square lamina is immersed in water with one of the diagonals vertical as shown in the given figure. So see, one diagonal is vertical and it is immersed in water. Calculate the force on the side and the location of the center of pressure. So we have to calculate the force that is acting on the side and the location of the center of pressure. So the object is at 0.6 meter depth. The top of the object is 0.6 meter depth and it has side A which is equal to 0.6 meter. So this is another figure representing the axis of the immersed body. So it is about the x-axis. So as it is about the x-axis, we will write as yp equal to I, and it will be x dash plus x dash upon a yc plus yc. So a is basically the area, and that is a square, and that is equal to 0.6 times 0.6, and it will be 0.36 meter square. And yc is basically h bar. So is basically h bar, it is the distance of the center of gravity, and it is equal to 0.6 plus a by root 2 for a square which is kept along its diagonal. This is the formula for the center of gravity for a square kept along its diagonal. This is a very generalized formula, and it is equal to 0.6 plus 0.6 upon root 2, and that is equal to 1.0243 meters. So what is Ixs? I x dash will be equal to 1 by 36 b h cube. This is for a square which is along its diagonal, plus bh upon 2 times h square upon 9, and this is basically for a triangle, and if we multiply it with 2, the formula was basically for this triangle, and if we multiply it with 2, we will get it for the entire square. So that is equal to 1 by 12 bh cube times 2, and this is bh cube upon 6. So this is basically the moment of inertia I x dash, and now I x dash will be equal to 1 by 6 times BH cube. So what will be the value of B? The value of B is basically, we can find by getting the value of this one by calculating it through Pythagoras theorem. We'll also get the value of B and also the value of H, which will be basically half of B. So you can apply simple geometry and mathematics to get it through Pythagoras theorem, and it will be 1 by 6 into 2a upon root 2 will be the B times a cube upon 2 root 2, and it will be equal to 1 by 12 a to the power 4, and that is equal to 0.6 to the power 4 by 12, and that is 0.0108 meters to the power 4. So therefore force on one side of lamina will be equal to F is equal to gamma A H bar, and that is equal to 9.81 times 1000. So 9.81 times 1000 times area is 0.36 times H bar is 1.0243, and that will be equal to 3.62 kilonewton, and therefore center of pressure XP will be equal to 0, and YP will be equal to YC plus I x dash upon A H bar, that will be equal to 1.0243 plus 0.0108 upon 0.36, 1.0243, and that will be equal to 1.0536 meters. This one is a good question. 4-meter long quarter circular gate of radius 3 meter and of negligible weight is hinged about its upper edge A. So here in the figure you can check that at the upper edge, about its upper edge A, this circular gate of radius 3 meter is hinged. The gate controls the flow of water over the edge at B. So here it is the control is over here, and at the B where the gate is pressed by a spring. So at B the gate is pressed by a spring. The water level rises to A at the upper end of the edge of the gate. Assume hinge is frictionless, weight of the gate negligible, and row of water is 1000 kg per meter cube. So the minimum force in kilonewton required to keep gate closed are, and we are provided with 4 options. So let us first try to get what is our horizontal force is, that is Fh equal to, so basically let us think that the horizontal force will be somewhat like this, and we will also have a vertical force which will be somewhat in this direction, and let us consider it to be Fb. So FH will be equal to rho G H bar A, and it will be rho G and H bar is basically radius upon 2, so it will be R by 2 and multiplied by the area, that is area will be equal to 4 into 3. Because the length is 4 meter and we also have radius 3, so if we project it, so in the horizontal direction it will be just like a simple rectangle of 4 into 3 area. So it will be 4 into 3 will be the area, and 4 into 3 will be the area, and therefore FH will be equal to 1000 times 9.81 times 3 by 2 times 12, and that is equal to FH is equal to 176.58 kilonewton. Similarly, we have FB. So FB is basically V rho G, and V is basically the volume of the water that is being applied. So basically we will get something like with the volume multiplied by the density, and the gravitational acceleration will be the vertical force that will be acting on the gate. So the volume is basically 1/4 of a cylinder, so it will be 3 cross 3 minus pi 3 square upon 4, because we don't have the circles over here, times 4, that is the height of the cylinder, and that will be equal to or multiplied by 1000 times 9.81, and thus we will get the vertical force as 75.79 kilonewton. So after we have FV and FH, for getting the value of Z, that is, let us take that area of now consider that this part is C and this part to be O. Just we will make this simple construction, and by simple geometry, area of AOBC will be equal to times 3 by 2 will be equal to area of AOB times 4r upon 3 pi plus area of ACB times Z. Let us take up Z as the distance from ACB. Now after this we will have area of AOBC will be nothing but 3 cos 3 times 3 by 2 will be equal to area of AOB, that is pi 3 square upon 4 multiplied by 4r upon 3 pi, plus the area of ACB will be 3 cos 3 minus pi 3 square upon 4 times z, and thus upon solving this one we will get z equal to 2.32 meters. So therefore, if we take a moment about A, so it will be rotating about A, so we can take a moment about A, and taking FH as the force, so it will be about summation of MA equal to 0. So it will be FH times 2 by 3 times 3, because it will be at 2/3 height of this one, because it will be acting at a 2/3 height from this one. This is a simple geometry of triangle. Centroid lies 2/3 from the height, from the top of the height, and plus taking care of the FV will be acting at a distance z, that is this one, our 2.32, FP times 2.32. So just putting the values, 176.58 times 2 plus FB will be 75.79 times 2.32, and thus we will get, and that will be equal to Fs times 3. So Fs about A will be equal to 176.33 kilonewtons. In the next question, we are given a cylindrical cylinder with 4 meter dia in equilibrium, and calculate the vertical component of the force exerted by the fluid per meter length of cylinder and the total horizontal pressure force acting on A, B, C, D. So we can see that the force on AB, there will be no force actually acting on AD because no fluid is around here. If you check AB, so you will see a downward force will be acting because of the oil present over here. In the part BC and CD, an upward force will be acting because of the water present over here. So first let us find us the force on AB, that is downward, will be equal to the volume of AB dash BA, AB dash BA, this volume per meter length times gamma W times S, and that will be equal to volume of AB dash BA will be, this is 4, and therefore this one will be 2, this one will be 2, this is also 2, so it will be 2 cross 2 minus, we will subtract the area of the circle, that is pi by 4 2 square, times gamma w will be equal to 1 and specific gravity is 0.8 times 10, and so we have this one equal to 6.87 kilonewton. Similarly, force on BCD, and it will be upward, will be equal to 4 times 4 into 2 into 1, because it is the per meter length, times 0.8 times 10 plus pi by 8 times 4 square times 10 times 1, and this is equal to 126.83 kilonewtons. So we have the force AB downwards and force BCD upwards, and therefore we can get net force, and because you can see the upward force is more than the downward force, so the net force will also be upwards, and it is equal to 126.83 minus 6.87, and it is equal to 119.86 kilonewtons. So therefore total horizontal force on ABCD is equal to force on the curve AB plus force on the curve BC plus the force on the curve CD. But we can also say that the force on the part BC and CD will be getting compensated, so therefore it will be totally the force on AB, since BC is equal to minus CD, minus because it is acting in the opposite. So see, you can see this BC part, the CD part, you can, if you consider the horizontal forces, they will be cancelling each other, so we will be cancelling it from our equation. We will not consider the force due to BC and CD, it will be solely due to AB, and so the horizontal force will be equal to, this was FB, horizontal force will be equal to the force on AB, and that is equal to gamma W S times A times H bar, and that is equal to 10 times 0.8 times area is 2 into 1 per meter, and H bar is also 1, and that is equal to 16 kilonewton, and it will be acting in this direction because there is no force, no liquid over here, so it won't be having any horizontal force. So that was all about the hydrostatic forces. So please post any kinds of doubts in the comment section. I'll be accepting them very nicely, and I'll try to clear them out. And also like and share my video. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. Thank you.